Chapter 2, my near-death experience. In these idling moments, which were many, I kept finding myself turning again and again to look at the two pictures above my head. I was trying so hard not to become distracted, but I never tried hard enough. Sooner or later, I always found I could no longer resist the temptation. I had to look. There they were, my small gypsy caravan painting, my best painting ever, according to Miss Weatherby. The story behind it is still echoing in my mind, and beside it, the other Vincent picture. This was a much larger one in a heavy wooden frame of 4 boats drawn up on the beach, and 4 more out at the sea beyond. Fishing boats by the look of them, but like no other boats I had ever seen, and both pictures painted by Vincent. I am sure that my mother must have told me who this other Vincent was at some time or another in all these years. But if she had, I hadn't been listening, or I wasn't interested, or had long since forgotten. It wasn't just the coincidence of the name that I loved. I loved the boat picture above any other paintings I had ever seen. They were graceful-looking boats, flamboyantly coloured in reds and blues and yellows and greens like the gypsy caravan in my own painting. The empty beach behind them stretched away to the horizon, waves rolling up onto the sand, and a wide sky above was filled with scudding clouds. One of the boats was called Amity. I could see it quite clearly painted on the prow. The truth is that if I had not been so busy procrastinating that day during my vision, I might have never discovered what that word meant at all. It was all part of my dreaming disinclination to get on and revise. I decided to look it up. It was a French word apparently, which I thought it might be, though I had never come across it in my French lesson. It meant friendship or love. So I surmised these boats must very likely have been drawn up on a French beach, but where on the coast I had no idea. At about the same time as I was making this discovery, I happened to come across in a second-hand bookstore in town another painting signed by this Vincent of sunflowers. It was on the cover of the book, and it was a picture I knew at once. The signature was definitely the same. The bright and vibrant colours of the painting instantly recognizable too. I was sure it had been painted by the same Vincent who had signed my boat picture. I still don't know what took me so long to get around to make the connection. I have to say I felt rather ignorant and stupid because this Vincent was of course rather famous. In fact, he was amongst the most famous artists of the world has ever known. I bought the book for $1.50 and took it home and read it from cover to cover. Vincent van Gogh, a Dutch artist, had signed his pictures Vincent, just as I had signed my gypsy caravan painting. I might have recognized his famous sunflower picture, but I had never ever before paid any attention to the signature, nor really taken on board who it was that had painted these amazing sunflowers. And I certainly did not know he had painted fishing boats as well. But there it was on the wall above my bed, my boat picture, and painted by the famous Vincent van Gogh. He had spent some time in the south of France. I discovered towards the end of his life. Whilst living there, he had painted hundreds of pictures, some landscapes, some of the people who lived and worked there, a few of them including mine. He had painted down by the sea, just a few miles from where he was living, in a town called Arles. It was in his room in Arles, in a state of deep depression, that he had cut off his own air. Mental illness had forced him to spend his time in a nearby hospital, but he never really recovered in the end. He had been driven to suicide. The more I read about him, the more I wanted to find about him, to see as many of his pictures as I could, to go where he had gone, to stand on the beach where he had painted his boat. Such diversion and reveries, of course, did not help me to focus on my revision for my geography and English literature exams, and even less on my biology, which I especially loathed. But it wasn't just my belated discovery of who this Vincent was that made me want to go where he had gone, to find the beach where he had painted my picture of the fishing boats on the sand. There were other pictures from the book I particularly liked, one of the little bridge over a canal, and the one of a cafe bathed in yellow light in a cobbled street under a starry evening sky. I wanted to go to all these places, be where he had been. It wasn't because he was famous that made me want to go, and it wasn't because we happened to share the same name either. It was because the boat picture of his above my bed very nearly killed me. I was in my bedroom at my desk by the window, pretending to deep into my revision. Moments before, I had been lying down on my bed, trying to summon up the willpower to get on with my work. I was only at my desk at all because I had heard my mom coming up the stairs and did not want her to catch me lazing about again. So there I was, hunched over my biology textbook, looking at as studios as I could, and waiting for the inevitable knock on my door. That was when it happened, my near-death experience. No crashing, no splintering glass, the boat pinting. I remind you, it was a very large and heavy picture, simply fell off the wall and landed with a great thud on my pillow, exactly where my head had been less than a minute before. One look behind the picture told me that the string had broken, and that same look told me something else I had never known. There was a piece of paper tacked to the back of the frame, covered in faded writing. I picked the picture up and carried it over to the light of the window so I could read it. To little Vincent from his grandma and grandpa, on your first birthday, 27th January 1964. A long time ago, we went to this beach in Camargue region in the south of France, where Vincent van Gogh had gone when he painted this picture. The boat were not there, of course, but the beach and the sea and the sky were just as he painted them. It was windy that day, and you can almost feel the wind in his picture. We bought it at a local shop and had it hanging in our bedroom for years and years. It is our favorite picture in all the world, so we thought you might love it too, as much as we have. And you never know, one day you might go to the Camargue and stand on the beach where we once stood in the wind, where another Vincent van Gogh painted these lovely boats with our love. Always. G&G. Grandpa and Grandma. Had the picture not fallen off the wall, none of the rest of the story would have ever happened at all. A story that in the end would turn out to have very little to do with Vincent van Gogh, but without him and his boat painting that nearly killed me that day, and without Grandpa and Grandma, I suppose I would never have chosen to go on my travels after my exam were over, down to the south of France where Vincent van Gogh had once gone. I went on my wandering by train and bus and afoot, camping out, always following the bend in the road. A road that I hoped might lead me eventually down towards the sea, and maybe even into the beach where Vincent van Gogh had painted those fishing boats all those years before. It was a road that would take me instead into another world, into another time, and another place altogether.